Retirement. That's what we're all aiming at, right? But exactly what does that mean? It conjures up visions of endless days of golf, drinks with little umbrellas in them on a tropical beach, feet up, reading a book. Is that what it's all about? I don't think so. Life would get pretty dull after a while without anything meaningful to do, don't you think? I'm Jackie Doucette, and I'm on a mission to discover exactly what life is like beyond retirement. Join me while I chat with people who've already done it, who've retired to something rather than from something. Let's find out together exactly what's waiting for us when we say goodbye to that 9 to 5. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. I'm your host, Jackie Doucette, and this is episode 268. Today, I'm excited to have Lynda Camire with me. Lynda and I have been friends for a while, and I've been following her as she got ready for retirement. And she's recently retired from her job with the Canadian government. And I thought she'd make a great guest because she has some expectations of what retirement is going to be for her. Lynda, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. The primary themes on our show this season are mental health, physical health, personal growth, enjoyment, relationship, the kind of things that people think about as they go into retirement. And if we touch on these, that's great. Yeah. But what I really want us to do is just have a conversation about your transition into retirement, if that's okay.
Sure, sounds good.
So I think we'll start with just your decision to retire. When you started thinking about it, or did you start thinking about it? Was it a planned decision or was it spontaneous?
No, it was definitely planned. I'd always intended to retire at 62. I never wanted to work to 63, mainly because I would never even have a full pension anyway. So I didn't see the point in spending those extra years, in the working for the government. And what I picked my date based on the in-office presence that was going to be happening for me. And I just decided this would be a good opportunity before I go into the office 3 or 4 days a week to retire. And it seemed to align well with my planning for it.
Oh, good. It's always good when a plan comes to fruition the way you wanted it to.
That part did.
So how did you feel leading up to your last day? Were you trying to tie up loose ends, or were you kind of at a loss for things to do?
I found myself really distancing myself from my job. I was, I would say the last week, even though I was logged in, I was really not responding to anything pertinent unless the person replacing me asked for help. I had just totally pushed off everything, which I didn't think I would do, but I really did. Even though I was in front of the computer, I wasn't really working.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, it made me, I don't know why I did that. I really thought some people work, right up to the last second of the last hour before they retire. And yeah. I found myself really putting great space there. The last week I was there, it's like there's stuff coming up and it's like I didn't want to know about it because I didn't want to think about it when I'm retired.
Right. That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
And so did you have a big retirement party or anything like that?
No, because I was working remotely for the last few years. They did offer, I could go in and they would do a lunch. Because we have a situation here where we share a car, myself and my husband, I opted out of that because of the issues with parking and getting there. And then they offered me a virtual retirement party, which I find those, there's nothing more awkward than a virtual retirement party. And I really declined on that. So eventually my manager just said, will you at least show up at the last meeting with your team, put your camera on so we can at least say goodbye. And that was basically my send-off. I also didn't feel, I was leaving on such a high note with this team because I liked everybody and I did like my job. I I didn't really feel the necessity for to go any further with that. It was just nice to say goodbye, and they know I like them, and I felt that they really liked me too. So it felt good for me to do it that way.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that that worked out for you. I know a lot of people say that leaving work is hard because of the relationships, but it sounds like maybe your relationship with your coworkers was strictly that, a coworker kind of thing, and you don't socialize outside of work.
You know what? I didn't socialize with these people outside of work. I have rarely socialized with them outside of work. Having said that, I had a coworker retire in July, and I actually met with her for lunch last week. So I feel, it was a different type of conversation. It wasn't one of those water cooler conversations. It was more personal. Yeah, and she texted me after the meeting, and she's like, or after our lunch, and she said, we should do this again before Christmas. So, but other than that, I didn't look at my coworkers as friends.
Right. I understand that. People looked at me funny because I said the same thing when I was retiring. It's, everybody's really nice, but we're acquaintances. We work together, but it's not,
Exactly.
they're not friendships the same.
That's right. That's right.
So, what was your first day like? You finished off work, and the next day, what happened?
It was awful. It was like, well, I retired before Thanksgiving, so I had a busy weekend. But the very first day I retired, the first thing that I had a hard time getting out of my workday routine. I felt I was constantly running in here to look at emails that I never receive anymore. I was looking at the clock to see what time I should go for lunch, which, what does it matter? And I will say by 1 o'clock, I was flat out bored. And I told my husband, I said, I cannot believe how much time my job consumed during the day. It consumed so much time in my head, and yeah, and also physically sitting here.
So that would be probably the most surprising thing for you is starting
Shocking.
off is just that your day was full and now it's not.
Shocking. It was shocking. Yeah, I couldn't believe how much time I spent working. And my husband, said to me, he goes, I can, because you would log in at 6 o'clock with your coffee. And yeah, sometimes you're right on there till, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 o'clock at night. So he wasn't surprised, but I was surprised at how much my routine revolved at home around my job.
So it's only been 2.5 or 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
Has it become any easier for you through the day?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think for me, I've had a lot of advice on how to spend my day. I have done some socializing. I do have a couple of little trips coming up. Yeah, I think socializing is a big thing for me. I've started walking more, and I met another lady out walking, and she's retired, so I feel I'm getting more into a routine
Oh, that's
for
good.
the day. And also, I did pick up a craft. I had to, something I can go back and forth to during the day.
That's important. What kind of craft did you pick up?
Well, I used to do a lot of paint by numbers as a child, a ton of them. And I can't paint anymore because I don't have a steady hand. So I picked up one of those diamond art uh, paint
Right.
by numbers type things. So I've been working at that, and I like doing that. It blows an hour or two, and it gives me something to focus on, which is really what I need.
Yep, that's it exactly. So, what about your overall person, your identity? Do you feel that that's changed since you retired? Do you feel like a different person?
Yeah, I do. I mean, for the first time, 2 days ago when I met this lady, she asked me what I did, and I almost told her I work for the government. And I said, oh, no, sorry, that's a lie. I'm retired. And it felt weird saying that. it made me feel like a different person. I will eventually get used to saying that, but when I said it for the first time, I was like, "Wow, yeah, I'm retired. I'm with a different group of people. My peers are different now."
And what does that mean for you in terms of who you are? Does it change how you think about yourself?
Well, it certainly means I'm getting older.
Uh,
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. I am getting older, and I mean, I'm happy that I'm retired, and I certainly do not miss my job. Yeah, like I don't miss it, but I'm just, before I was a public servant, and now I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm just retired with no other title behind it, just retired.
Do you think you'll find something else to say when people ask you, what do you do? Or will you always say, I'm retired?
I do think I will always say that I'm retired. I can't see myself, working like part-time, at in retail or anything like that. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think I am forever retired. There's no question.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, well, it's what we
It's
work for.
exactly that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
So now what's the next step? I mean, you made it to retirement, but you can't just sit there on your chair now. What's going to happen? Do you feel any
Well,
pressure to start doing things?
no, I don't. Um, Mostly the only thing I put on myself pressure wise is I want to have a more uh, routine filled day. I operate on routine. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's basically like you would know from working your whole life. You get up at a certain time and this is what you do. So, I have to have a routine. And right now I'm trying to get myself into a routine. Uh, but it's a lot harder than I thought it would be.
And you said it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It takes a little
yeah,
bit of time to build a routine. Habits take a little
exactly.
bit of time.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think you'd like to do more of now that you're retired?
Um, well, yeah, I certainly want to do more cooking because that's my passion.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I've thought about taking, cooking classes, not to teach me how to cook, but to teach me a different cuisine. Yeah, like right now I've been the last few months I've been doing a lot of Thai cuisine. So I was thinking, I don't really, other than spaghetti and lasagna, that's all I really have in Italian. So maybe, yeah, maybe something Italian where, it gets more specialized. I have to go for classes. That would be fun for me. So I'm hoping to, find something like that for myself.
Well, I hope you're looking for people to try out your food because you
Yes.
know where I am. I'm always up for testing out new recipes when I'm not the one that has to
Absolutely.
cook them. And do you have anything that you thought you would be doing in retirement that you're excited to start now, other than, more cooking? Are there things that you've been putting off for retirement that you think are the next step?
Travel.
Travel.
Travel was always, travel was the thing, my husband and I were going to do in retirement. And, and of course, our expectations for travel have changed also because of our age. When we were in our 40s, we were going to, live in Mexico or some other country for 6 or 8 months of the year and, yeah, just live in Canada in the winter. Well, now that we're a little bit older and we have grandchildren, the dynamic has changed for us. But it hasn't changed, the travel aspect. Yeah, still want to do 4 weeks in the winter down in Mexico minimally, and still want to take another pretty good sized holiday in between that. But that won't happen until he retires. Until then, we'll just be doing probably a winter trip to Mexico.
And when do you think that your husband is going to retire? I mean, it's hard to plan things when only one of a couple is retired.
Well, I would like him to retire in 2 years. That would be, and I am pushing for that. He is kind of on the fence. He's thinking he should go an extra three. Um, I really hope he doesn't go 3 years. That puts him at 66. And, we're in our prime right now for retirement.
Yep.
And I don't think he should spend too much more time working. And for what? We're going to miss out on so much. I don't think it will be worth it.
You never know, do you? It's some people retire and the next day they're gone. And
Yeah,
you never, if we only had that crystal ball to let us know how many years we've got left.
exactly. But, I can be pretty persuasive and, uh,
It's a nice
I
way
do,
of putting
yeah,
it. So, one thing that I've asked a couple of people is, what are you giving yourself permission to stop doing now that you're retired?
huh. Well, I'm really trying to stop watching the clock the way I used to during the day. That is, that was the biggie. That was part of the reason I carried a phone around the house with me, or when I went for a walk, because I was always watching the clock, watching my emails,
Yep.
and that is something. It's I still find myself, I'm a little bit of a clock watcher, but I know I will get there. But that's always been a biggie for me, is this being tied to your phone, and being for me, tied to the phone, tied to the clock.
I think that's a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah,
It ties back into the routine. You're used to having a routine and having to
yeah,
do things at certain times. So it's hard to
exactly.
stop that.
It is. It is. It will happen in time, but yeah, I'm still finding my way. I'm sure by winter I'll be doing much better.
Of course, I've been retired for a while now and I spend a lot of time looking at the clock,
Yeah,
but I've also got a lot of things on the go, so
of
it's
course.
important to keep them in line and, know what
Yeah,
time it is to get where you're going.
right, right.
So you mentioned cooking is a passion, and I knew that.
Yes.
When did you start liking cooking?
I always liked cooking. My father was, he was from Quebec City. He was, a real Frenchman, and of course, he loved to cook. So, I always used to cook with him on weekends. And when I moved into this house, because I had a better kitchen, still not my dream kitchen, but it was better. Then I really, yeah, had the room and the counter to really start cooking a lot more. And I mean, and like I said, it's just an absolute passion for me.
And I know you've had a few big dinner parties. You can feed a lot of people in your house.
Yes.
Do you plan, not maybe not plan, do you see yourself doing the cooking as more than just a hobby? Do you see yourself maybe doing something with it? You mentioned you didn't think you'd have any part-time work, but what about
Right.
cooking?
Well, yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, doing yeah, like small dinner parties.
Hmm.
And I would do that, yeah, and that would be fun. But yeah, I would have to put a lot of legwork into doing something like that, because first of all, I have to put a price on my time. And also I have to, I wouldn't know how to price it out. Do you know what I mean? I would have to meet someone who does this.
Right.
And
Yeah, catering business takes some time to plan.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And I think one bad dinner party, I would be bankrupt. Yeah,
I don't suppose you go into it thinking, I'm going to have a bad dinner party.
No, no. But yeah, I just worry about things like that. So for now, um, I think the main thing is, if I was really concerned about earning money, I probably would have kept my job.
Right.
Yeah, I do work with people who, want to go work at Home Depot or retail, and I just, I just said to them, I mean, if I had to work to in retirement, I would have kept on working. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
retired
And that makes perfect sense.
unless I knew for sure I was going to make exactly what I'm going to make. Yeah, working for the public service. But other than that, I don't really see myself working. I might do some fun stuff instead.
So in your mind, then, retirement is the end of the work time and it's time to start enjoying the fruits of the of your labors.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we saved for our retirement quite extensively for at least 15 years, and this is the time to to start spending some of that savings.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yes,
So you've had a little bit of time to think about retirement, but of course, getting used to it is going to take more than,
yeah,
a month or two. It's gonna take a while to get into your groove. What
right.
would you what would you say to someone who's newly retired or unsure about retiring?
Well, anyone who's unsure about retiring is probably not ready to retire. And and one thing I tell my husband, I don't care, ultimately, I don't care when you retire, as long as when you do retire, you're ready. Um,
And for you, what does ready mean?
well, yeah, you got to be ready to accept that you're not going to get that paycheck every 2 weeks. Yeah, yeah, and you got to be ready to accept you're not going to miss that extra paycheck in the month. Yeah, everything comes at the end of the month. And to me, I mean, that's what I mean by ready. And that's why, particularly for my husband, he likes this paycheck every 2 weeks, and he's got to be
Yeah.
ready to give that up. Yeah, and just get this one lump sum of money at the end of the month and live off it. So I think that's a biggie. I did speak to a friend I used to work with, and she retired in January, and she's really missing that extra paycheck.
Hmm. It's definitely an eye opener. It's something that people don't necessarily think about. They think, oh, I'm not going to have the money, but they don't think of what that really means when you get
Exactly,
halfway through the month.
exactly. And the other part I also talk about to my husband is, we have been saving for 15 years. When he
Hmm.
retires, we're not saving any more money. As a
Right.
matter of fact, we may see some of those accounts go in the other direction. And
Well, as they should, because that's what they're for.
exactly, but he's got to be ready to see the account get smaller, not bigger.
Yeah. And that takes some adjustment, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I mean by ready to retire. I think those are two very important aspects you got to be prepared for.
Yeah. And what do you wish someone had told you ahead of time?
I think if I had been told that I would still be uh, working, like, yeah, the way I transitioned that first week was really rough, and I didn't expect it to be that way. The boredom, and it was just crazy, and it was almost depressing. And when I told these two ladies, the one I had lunch with, she said, "Oh yeah, the first 2 weeks for me." She said, "I actually regretted retiring at first." And the other girl told me, she said, "I was so broke." she said she said I had big regrets. So I think if I had been told you may have that momentary sense of regret, like, did I make the right decision? Not regret, second guessing.
Right.
That's what it really is. It's just kind of second guessing, the decision to go. But I still feel, even though I'm still finding my way, I I can guarantee you, I do not miss my job. I miss the routine, but I don't miss the job.
Okay. You can always set up a routine if you miss it. That's easy
Exactly.
to do.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And has there been anything that's helped you navigate the boredom or anything that a trick that you'd like to share? Or are you
At the
still
moment,
struggling?
at the moment, I haven't been able to navigate the boredom, even though I started a craft, which helps. I work on it about 2 hours a day, which really helps. But other than that, and I walk once a day for, 45 minutes to an hour. That's only 3 hours out of the day.
Yep. A
Yeah,
lot of
that
time,
leaves,
a
that
lot of
leaves a
time
lot.
left over.
Exactly. So I'm still navigating how to, yeah, eliminate the boredom and how to keep myself, yeah, engaged.
And what do you think? Um, I don't know how to ask that question. What do you think would help that for someone who is just coming into retirement? Because the boredom is there and other people have mentioned it. Is there something that we can do to change that, or is it just part of life?
You know what I would have done? I would have had a bunch of trips planned right from the start. I think, yeah, I think back to when my husband and I were first planning retirement, and way back, we were going to retire on the exact same day, and on that retirement day, when we hand in our work passes, we were going to head to the airport, and we were going to be gone on some great big trip. And I wish that we had been able to do that. I really do. I think having some, because for us it would be travel, but for somebody else it could be something else. But
Right.
I think to hit the ground running, to combat the boredom, I really wish I'd had something like that planned.
That would have been something to see. Just
Yeah,
hand in your stuff, head to the airport, and you're gone.
yeah, and that was always what we wanted to do, and of course, it just didn't work out that way.
Right. You mentioned earlier one of the stumbling blocks in your retirement is the fact that you've only got one vehicle. So it makes it a little bit more difficult getting around. I
Oh yeah,
know some people are in cities, there's public transport, things like that, but not in every location.
no,
So that makes everything a little bit tougher. One person is working, they've got the car, you're stuck at home, you feel a little bit more isolated.
completely, especially where we live. We don't have access to public transportation out here. I'm in a rural subdivision, so I can't even walk to the Tim Hortons or walk downtown. And then basically, when I do go for a walk, there's only 3 streets I can walk on. So, the monotony of the walking itself can get boring unless you have different walking partners. Um, Buying a second car is definitely high on the list for us. Um,
Right.
I mean, I'd even go one step further and say that when I don't have a car here from Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I almost feel like I'm being held hostage in the house. You know?
So you've gone from a work day where you're busy all the time and you don't even notice that there's no car because you can't go anywhere,
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
suddenly being locked in your home. You've got nowhere you can go because there's no way to get there,
There's no way to get there. Yeah.
but you've got nothing to do either.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I would just go. If I get sick of being in the house, I could jump in the car. I can go visit my daughter. I can go visit a friend. I would have that
Freedom.
ability to. It's the freedom, and I really don't have it from Tuesday to Thursday. I am stuck.
Just another reason to work that encouragement on your husband to get going.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Either way, I mean, if even if he retires in 2 years, I have to get a vehicle in the spring, and he knows that.
So, Linda, what would be your pearl of wisdom, your bit of advice for someone who hasn't retired yet, but who is getting ready to retire?
Make sure you're ready, because once you retire, there's really no going back. Yeah, do you know what I mean? If you leave a good job for retirement and you're not ready, um, it would be pretty hard for someone who held a pretty good job to go work at Tim Hortons or a grocery store. Yeah, so you have to make sure you're ready to retire.
And in hindsight, maybe you were ready to leave your job, but not so ready to be doing nothing.
Exactly, exactly. And like you said, I haven't had my own car. We've been sharing a car for 13 years. Never bothered me. Always had
Great.
access to it. We carpooled. I had access to the car on weekends, evenings. It worked fine. And it didn't occur to me that on day one, I would be telling my husband, I need a car.
It's another learning curve. That's all I can say. Retirement
Exactly.
is another stage of life, and you've got to
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
to get over the stumbling blocks.
Right. Right.
Well, Lynda, thanks for joining me today. Is there anything you'd like to share with people that we haven't talked about before we say goodbye?
No, I think I just, really stress that you have to be ready emotionally and financially. Those are and I think if someone is even second guessing the idea of retirement, then they should step back and not pull the trigger on it.
Okay, and that's probably a good idea. Thank you very much, Lynda, for joining me today. And
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. It's nice talking to you as always.
And that's it for this episode of Beyond Retirement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you ready to start rocking your retirement? Head on over to www.beyondretirement.ca/rocking it and sign up to plan out your own roadmap for retirement. Don't wait till it's too late.